This is the logistic map. And really the basic input is this R up here. And there's a formula here that you can track in the booklet that results in a pattern. This is a very interesting pattern. This is a little bit more interesting of a pattern. And the goal of this map is to determine, as this number changes R, what happens at the end here of this pattern. Here it goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and eventually stops at a certain point. So if R is 3, this eventually stops at about 0.7. This map here is R is 3, it stops at about 0.7. And if this were 2, it stops at 0.5 to 0.5. And as before, we can change the value of R manually, do a lot of things. So typically R goes between 1 and 4. So let's just see how this changes as R changes now. You see R changing and the pattern changing. As the pattern changes, the end of the pattern is right here. As you can see, it's not very interesting, it's not very interesting. At some point, it starts to oscillate or go back and forth, up and down. And we'll just watch this for a bit. And even though it oscillates here, it still ends up at a certain point until it gets to a little over 3. Then it oscillates between 2 points. Still not very interesting, but though you wonder why it changes from 1 to 2. Then as you can see, it starts to change here. Now it's got 4, but it's still pretty regular. But then it starts to get random until it's very random. So this first macro here just does what we just did. The second macro does really the same thing. It collects all the data. I'll show you why it does that in a moment. So it takes just a few seconds to run and collect all the data between R equals 1 and 400 iterations. The logistic map then plots. As you can see, it stops at about 0.2 here. R ends at 0.2. So this records, this logistic map records all of the results. At 2.5, it should terminate at 0.6, and it does. So you'd expect this to keep going up. Let's just watch it and see what happens. It's kind of like a cannonball or a golf ball when you hit it. You'd expect it to continue on. Here's where the oscillations kick in. Like a cannonball, you'd expect this to keep going, but here it splits, which is weird. And then it splits again. And then it just starts to get random. So play with it. This is the logistic map.